No, you know what I put up with every day.
There's a horse in the call? What the fuck?
We're streaming.
Oh, nice.
Hey guys.
Oh, I can't.
The horse?
Don't say the N-word.
N-word.
How dare you? Hey guys, Neon Boy here. Welcome to the stream. Yay. It's hot in here. It sucks. And we're doing a thing.
Nice, dude. Best intro.
Yep. Lobby is now created. Join aerobic hydrosity test, everyone. We're all trying the new co-op mode because I have no idea how it works. This is my first time booting up the game after the new update.
Does this mean I get to play a character that can kill everybody without getting yelled at?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, please do. It's aerobic
Everybody
hydrosity test.
I mean, new
It's
usually
popping
kills
up.
everyone.
I'm spamming refresh. It
I'll
doesn't
be there in a bit. Give me a second.
Hydraulic, what?
Hold on.
Hydraulic test. What the fuck is the password?
There's no password.
I see it now.
Oh. Yeah, everybody join the Arabic hydraulic test.
Yeah, the Arabic hydro test. That's the one.
That's the one that we use.
Torpex.
What?
Are you joining?
In a bit.
If you don't,
What does that mean?
does that mean go on without you?
We need to play on White Winter or Clover.
What?
Play on every map but that map.
White Winter or Clover, because that's one of my challenges.
I don't have either of those.
Well, shit. Should
When are
I
we
start
gonna
a
fucking
server?
play?
Should I start a server?
Well, that's just because we're playing co-op. Oh, well, someone joined instead of you, Torpex. Sorry, we're going on.
Oh my god, I'm not playing with a 253 level.
The levels don't mean anything. Levels just mean that they've played longer. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but my challenge is I need to win one game.
Well, then you'll get a chance to win a game. We're playing co-op mode.
Oh, he left.
Oh, thank god.
Alright, everyone ready up. We're going.
Everybody ready up before that guy comes back. Ready to fuck up. Wait, what's long distance shot? It said I need to bring a long distance shot. Oh, here it is.
Fuck?
What the fuck are this shit? Why is it saying 2 and 5 and 3 and 4?
I'm confused as well. I'm gonna go with QP on this one just because QP is my always go-to. Go that and that and that. We need some of that for sure. I'll go with that. That one's always a funny one. That one I love trolling people with. Oh, what? Go with one of those, and then that, and that. This is... I don't understand what the hell's going on, but I'm just gonna save that as deck 1 so I never have to load anything again. I was so hoping I could just import my old deck, but apparently that's not how it works.
Everybody bring your puddings. Wait, why? It's not showing all my cards, I don't feel like. I'm confused.
I don't think it showed all mine either, because I have 3 pages of cards.
Why is your time? What is this thing? Attacker? What? I'm confused.
I am too. But apparently we're all attacker. I don't get it.
The fuck?
Who brought the chicken?
That was like part of... That was like the part...
Chicken.
That's like some part of the... I think we have to take that thing down.
Oh no.
And that's like our co-op thing.
Wait, oh wait, that's a big... So that's just a boss that we have to kill?
Pretty much.
Oh,
That's what I think it's about.
Team?
Yeah, we're all on the same team here. I mean, it's called co-op, so... Look, there's no option to even fight me there. Oh, I like this version.
I don't like this version. This is too complicated.
It's not complicated. We just fight the big chicken.
Oh, it's my turn. Why didn't anybody say so?
Wait,
It's your
we can
turn.
See everyone else's cards too. What the fuck?
Wait, what?
This is weird as hell.
Wow.
So we're just working together to kill the biggest
What the
chicken,
how-
and everyone's
Whoa,
getting.
whoa, 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 why is there a chicken? Why is there a chicken as well? There's two chickens.
I'm so fucking confused. I'm sorry for coughing.
It's alright, I'm...
Let's jiggle, guys.
What the hell?
Okay. No, I get everyone stars.
I'm so confused.
No, don't drop, dude. We all lose stars, I think. Maybe.
What is even the point of this? Like, how do we win?
We
have no
probably have to kill the chicken.
We just killed the big chicken, I think.
-1 attack, +1 defense, +1 evade, HP of 50. Currently has 100 stars. What? And wait, we can just have whatever normal we want.
What is, and we're timed now. Apparently.
And you can stop by any.
Makes sense.
Oh, I wanted to fight Newt.
You can't fight people, it's co-op.
You have to fight the chicken.
Dumb.
Wait, can we fight the other chicken? Oh my fucking god, dude. Why do we all have the same star count? I don't like this.
I don't understand what we're doing.
We're trying to kill the big boss.
Yeah, but I mean, is that like the end goal? If we kill it, do we all win? I don't understand.
I think so. I don't know. I know just about as much as you do right now, okay? I've played it just as long as you have.
And that's why I don't like this. I wish somebody at least would have, you know, known how to do this.
This
Gotta
is the
go
test run, Max.
here. Gotta go here. Oh my fucking god, what is that?
It's the chicken.
Why is his health 42? Oh my god!
He has,
Attack -2, but it's still 8. What?
Excuse me?
he has 2 dice.
What the fuck does that do?
That doesn't make sense.
Well, he has 2 dices to attack.
Wait, is DNC watching Neon's fucking end? Or is he in now?
Oh, nice. Have some star, guys.
I don't like that I'm dead though.
Being dead is not
Yeah.
fun.
-2 attack is really, really strong.
-2 attack is strong, you say?
When you have 2 dice.
Oh, my turn.
You mean ×2 attack then?
No,
Negative
-2, he rolls 2 dice.
So -4 ×2.
No, -2 attack, 2 dice.
Oh,
Otherwise known as
here,
it sucks.
guys, I'm helping. Wait, I killed this guy. I don't like him. Fuck.
Hey dude, you ready for a fucking 8? Because it's a -1. I don't like this fucking game mode. It is so fucking stupid.
You've just played it for 5 seconds. We don't know if we like it or not yet.
I fucking died to a thing that had -2 attack. What the fuck is that?
We're all fighting against this thing, man.
Yeah, but I got.
The boss is a chicken with -2 attack, you say?
But then I get.
Look at my
I got-
stream. Look at my stream,
He had an
Torpex.
8. It doesn't make sense.
Wait, everyone levels up too? What the fuck is this?
Dead.
This is the weirdest. I'm on drugs. I swear to God I am.
Nah, Newt, you're okay.
Okay. Why are there 2 chickens? There are now 2 chickens.
Why did him? Okay, why are you asking that when I am trying to ask? Why did a -2 fucking person
Oh.
do 8 attacks. It still doesn't make sense to me.
Because they rolled high on 2 dice.
It's stupid though. It's not supposed to work like that.
Hey, Panda family, welcome to the stream. We are all very upset. Wait a minute. Can we can just stop at everyone's homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Newt said that earlier, dude.
Oh,
You sure
well, I
did?
didn't hear. Okay, I'm deaf. Just because because I'm wearing these.
I think that's a you problem.
Yeah, pretty.
Oh fuck, am I gonna get up this time? Oh shit, I'm alive.
Oh my fuck. What the fuck is with the chicken and armor? I don't get it.
Dude, when did Meryl get in there? Oh wait, the CPU's normal. What's up? Why are we all in a straight line? And there's one dead character.
We're all upset. We're all upset because everyone is trying to fight this chicken with 50 HP, and occasionally he spawns another chicken, and he has -2 attack, which sounds like he can't attack that well, and then he does that. He does that.
That doesn't make sense.
Wait, I need max defense in order to live. And I don't get
That's
that.
the wrong word.
What the fuck?
Oh wow.
Wait, can I?
Yeah, you can't just do that.
Screw you. Yes. I am beating the snot out of you because I can do this. Bam, +3 attack. And roll whatever number you want. You ain't getting my stars.
But he did though, we only have 6 stars.
What? How? He didn't get any of our stars. Oh, wait.
The cards?
I'm alive.
Go to the boss, you attack the chicken.
Okay. You have no... Torpex, you have no right to boo. You have no right to boo.
Oh.
Well, we're all dead. We lost.
Wait, we just die when everyone's dead?
What?
Newt, this is your
Okay,
fault.
that chicken's dabbing. Dabbing is dead. What the hell?
You told me to fight the boss, Newt.
Okay, we are learning more about this game mode the more we play it. I am doing the clicky game.
mode is dumb.
Yeah, this game mode is kind of dumb, to be honest.
I don't like it.
Me either, to be honest.
We should still do the event, though.
Is the boss the event?
Well, Torpex, if you want to say that, then why don't you join in?
I'm online right now.
Who the fuck is the guy who joined?
Huh?
95% of the lobby is in multiplayer.
Okay, maybe we do need somebody. Where's that one? Where's that 252 guy? I need him back. I need him back because he might win with us.
You must kick
Wait,
random.
TNT is in, kick the random.
You must.
I sent the random a friend request.
Yes.
You must kick the random.
Well, time to go.
Wait, can we kick the random guy though?
I've tried before. Kicking doesn't work.
What?
Yeah, kicking doesn't work for me for some reason.
Well then, just rehost the lobby. I will go back to playing something else, you big baby.
Oh! Attacker, advantage 1, recovery down 1, attack boost 1. Guardian, protect 1, defense boost 1. Movement
I'm
boost
just
1.
gonna take anything that like has attack.
Ooh, I'm gonna take support. Ooh.
Oh,
What can
there's
heal an
some
ally
pretty
1
great.
HP when entering their panel? Norma 2, movement 1. Can revive an ally by paying 5 stars times remaining rec when entering their panel. Pay 2 HP to protect target from 2 damage in the next battle.
Everybody takes seagulls.
Avenger. HP plus 1. And for each 2 HP lost in battle, gain 1 attack.
I'm ready.
I'm ready, guy.
Oh, I'm an
I'm ready.
Avenger, man.
I'm
Oh, excuse me, it did not
ready,
save my last
ready.
thing. Why? Why didn't it save? I was totally counting on it saving.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Actually, I don't want that. I want to have friends who don't have things happen to them. It's too
You
much
don't
to
have
take
things happen
anymore.
to me.
Save as 1.
I think TNC died.
Probably, yeah.
I left because you're big babies.
I can't
What
kick!
am I a big baby for?
Babies.
The fuck did I do?
This will be interesting.
Uh,
I start out with the best card.
attack the boss. That's not
Yeah,
the boss.
that-
Fuck.
Wait, you didn't attack the boss?
No, I hit the chicken. The tiny chicken with like 3
Oh.
HP.
Eh.
Oh. That's why I brought the Cloud of Seagull, because I thought it would have helped. What is protective? Protect Newt.
Yee.
And now I use Cloud of Seagull.
Well, I mean, the chicken's dead. Whatever.
Hey, we killed one of the chickens. We didn't say which chicken we were gonna kill, but we killed one.
Yeah, we killed him. We won.
Yeah, we won the game, man.
Now we can go home.
We won. Wait, why do I have a blue ball around me?
That's a protection shield from Sonic
Uh,
3.
No good reasons. No good reasons.
I gave you that shield.
Kill
dude.
this guy. Oh, nice. Thank
I'm
you.
playing it as a guardian. I'm a guardian, dude. I'm a guardian from, Why did it look like you have a fucking Droidica shield around you?
No, he
I
left
don't
because
fucking
he does not want to watch.
Hmm?
I'm talking to chat.
Here, I protected you, Neon.
Why, thank you.
Everybody gets one. Now I protect the truck.
I can't kick people. It's not possible. If it were possible, I would have done it.
Kill the chickens. Is Max lagging?
I've tried. I can't do that. And also, I think so. Max, hang in there. Don't die on
Yeah,
me.
don't die. Kill the chicken.
I don't even think I'm lagging.
Oh, you were lagging, dude.
And
You were lagging badly.
and you just got ejected from the game.
No, I'm not. I'm still in.
It says you left the game.
What?
You lagged out of it.
But I'm still in here.
No, you're
Look at the
CPU-A.
stream.
No, I'm
Max
still
is
in here.
CPU-A.
No. Seriously,
Yeah.
I'm still
The
in here.
chicken teleported. Kill him.
Lost connection to the host. Hey, TNT, you can get in.
Oh, Max is back.
Hi, go ahead. I can.
Oh, TNT is
No. God damn it.
I could use the heal.
Maybe I should fucking boot the game. I can join.
It shows TNT first for some reason.
What do you mean?
It didn't show you, it only showed TNT.
What? Why am I not in?
Wait, TNT is still nice.
I totally expected it to show you first, and then I was gonna have to apologize, and now all of a sudden, it's just like, nope, TNT. I think that it's, oh, well there's your in.
Oh, the other guy left. Max join.
There we go. Now it is us!
Okay.
Someone stop by home. We need to level up.
Why am I playing as the pig?
Uh-huh.
You stole my character. I protect you because you stole my character.
Neon, stop by home. We need to.
I
level
am,
up.
trust me, I am.
Oh, wait, we can't since Max used stars.
Oh. I leveled up.
Go to stars.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me to not fucking use a fucking card? You should have said something. I didn't know. Don't die, guys. Don't die.
That's my line.
Oh, he's dead. He's dead.
Oh.
Well,
my.
there's a protect stack of 2.
TNT, you're good. You got this.
He's mega dead.
I mean, he only took 7 damage out of that 10.
And he only has 2 HP.
Also, Torpex, I don't know if you know this, but you're muted.
Oh my god, I'm only moving fucking 1 at a time.
I did not know that I am muted. Am I muted now?
No, you are not.
You didn't get to hear my death screech.
You can do that now.
You're in it.
My throat hurts.
Oh,
I don't want to.
I didn't want to hear it at all, so thanks, TNT.
Alright, so nobody used stars. We have just enough.
Somebody should
Yeah,
said that before I used it.
Max.
That's why I'm
stop by
saying it
home.
now.
We can level up. We can level up.
Wait, does it use stars if I do?
No, it does not.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Don't drop, please.
What the? Oh, dear. Oh, okay.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Wait, we lost stars because.
Wait, what?
Max died, so we lost stars.
I was going to drop stars in here. Not drop stars. There's either a drop boot or I die. Okay?
I think I'll just teleport over. I'll get.
Chicken.
No, I'm getting stars.
What is
dude.
Neon
Fucking chicken.
doing?
I left the room.
Why?
Oh, I thought you were this, man. Attack the chicken, kill him.
I refuse. Do this one. Yeah.
You got no stars out of that.
I got 1 star.
Because he landed on the star thing.
Max.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry, I'm playing 2 games. Sorry, I'm kind of playing 2 games at one time.
Oh.
Oh. Kill him.
Don't
Kill
die.
him until he's dead.
Don't die.
Why is there a boss pit on a boss map?
I don't like this guy.
Boy.
There, I leveled up, guys.
It's-
Oh, hell yeah.
It took 8 rounds that I leveled up.
It's a miracle.
Go get a card, yeah.
It's an early Christmas, just off by 7 months.
TNT, don't ever die, please. We need your revive card.
What?
Don't ever die. We need your revive card.
For what?
In case we die.
I don't know what a revive card does. I don't know.
Oh, it's revival of stars. It doesn't actually revive people.
I don't know why.
Oh my
you
fucking
said that.
god. Dumbass chicken.
Don't be rude to the chicken.
Fucking die. He
Okay.
didn't die. Evade. Nice.
I remember when we used the seagull. Those were good fun.
Go to the star.
No, I'm not okay, but thanks for checking up on me.
There's this thing that I have in my inventory that I want to put on the space, by the way.
Go to the star.
Okay.
Thank you. We need stars. Neon, level up. That's
So
not a level.
can the big chicken attack you by its own?
Yeah. So yeah, run away.
Don't die in it. Oh, it's going the other way.
Wait, why do you go backwards?
I don't understand.
And I'll level up, I guess.
Flight. Move in reverse. Boss will deal damage equal to boss level and each player encounters.
Wait.
Eek.
Oh fuck! To level up, we need 45.
Oof.
Go on that trap card.
Go on the boss to attack the chicken. Or don't.
Ugh. Thank you.
Don't shield.
Why is there a golden boss panel?
Because there is. He spawned the chicken.
Who?
The chicken.
So, like, is there amount of chapters or something?
Okay, someone level up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yee.
Yee.
How do we win?
By killing the big boss.
Chicken.
What about Normas?
Normas mean nothing, I don't
We all
believe.
have the same amount of stars and levels and everything.
Why do we care about getting our level up then?
Because then we can use
Because
more
we can-
cards.
More cards.
I don't think Dean knew this game.
Oh my fucking god. Oh. Nice.
Yo, it's your turn.
Oh, TNT left.
Why?
You died! Why did you die?
You had the HK.
Yeah.
Huh?
Something like that.
CPU. Did somebody give me protection?
Meh.
I've already forgotten what powers I have. All I know is I have +1 health and I do one other thing.
Yeah, it's
I know.
your fault. I mean, it's your turn.
What?
No.
Why are you automatically blaming me for something? Nothing even happened!
We blame you for everything.
I'm so used to blaming other people that I.
He took our stars.
Who left the call?
Other guy.
Torpex, he died.
Nice, we have 69 stars. Nobody do anything.
Just kill the boss. Don't gain any stars, don't lose any stars.
Well, Well, we gain stars by turn, so don't do anything. Period.
We could strategically land on drop panels.
Well, yeah, but that would take forever. Or use cards, I guess.
Who's closest? There you go. Oh no.
Just nah.
Oh, shit. Ah. My God, this is scary. I don't like being here. Well, that thing didn't fight me. I thought it was gonna fight. What the? Who's joining?
Some random guy.
Is he good?
Oh.
Why? If he's ran.
Oh, TNT's now playing 100% orange juice, guy.
Something went wrong. Try reloading the page.
I have never seen so many.
Wait,
area.
Max, you have two. Wait, someone has 2 revival cards. What the fuck?
Yeah, that would be my character, but I timed out. Remember?
I'm having some
Actually,
significant frame drops.
I don't know what's going on my end. Somebody's trying to join, but they ain't joining.
Why does this say lost connection to blank? I don't get it.
What?
It says so in the chat. In the game.
Sure, O'Brien.
I haven't heard that name in 20 years.
You can be prepared today.
Why are you giving it to me?
Because I'm not. I'm pretty fuck off.
Use Cloud of Seagulls. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, actually.
Well, we can only hit the boss or his fucking minion chicken.
I did not land in a very advantageous spot, but I still got this.
Kill him. Kill him. Defend.
You can defend it. Defend! Ah!
I don't want to do that because now I'm living at 1 HP!
Attack! Plus for attack! Oh, is he over by me? Oh no!
Wait, just try and land on eagle thingies, it's fine.
Everybody, try and target the fucking thing. I think it's probably gonna be aggro.
I'll target the minion, I guess.
Who else would?
I'm killing this guy. I don't like him.
Oh, you actually killed. Good job.
Wait, give it to the... Give it to the guy who's over by the boss, dumbass.
Nah. Shit, they don't understand. Oh.
What did I miss? What in the darkness consumed?
Can I protect myself because I'm by the boss?
I don't think so. Just
What did I
I'll
miss
give
when the darkness
I
consumed?
gave him a. I gave him. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Out of here.
Yeah! I like that we're not trying to kill each other. I like the idea of not trying to kill each other. We're actually trying to be friends.
I'm meant TNT would kill everyone. Dude, there's no.
Hey!
Yeah, we should focus the minions. Wait, who's connected?
You're right, that did happen. That's holy crap!
Dude, don't go over to the other. Don't go over to the other side. Make sure you stay in this area.
No kidding!
Get rid of the Shaki.
But yeah, I do remember that happened, Panda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't waste your fucking revival, dickhead.
Didn't do anything.
What he wasted didn't get rid of any. Whatever. See, this is why I play as Sugary, because I know how to fucking know how to actually play as Sugary.
Shut up, I do what I want.
That's dumb. Don't play as Sugary. You don't know how to play as that.
I know how to play as everybody.
Darbad.
Sugary.
Darbad.
I beat you. I beat you.
Should we try and fight the boss for once?
No.
How about you do, because it has the same health as the last time I attacked it, doesn't it?
Wait, we have 69 stars again. I'm happy.
Dude, get rid of your Sakikoki. And
Oh,
start
wow.
using those cards.
Hey, can you see if my stream's still running? Because OBS just disappeared.
It's going for now.
We can level up. Oh, we can't.
No,
We
we can't
almost-
need like 200 or some shit like that.
No, it says that we need 105 or more stores.
Yeah, 200 basically. Go in the kill space.
Yeah.
No, we're at 102. We just
No,
need 3
we
more
need-
stars.
We need 3 billion more stars, okay? Shut up.
Nope, Max.
Yeah,
don't
no.
need to.
That's a happy.
Damn Swedish.
Ah!
Die, chicken. That's
Not that one!
Well, like the boss.
Why does
Fight
the boss have 2 golden chickens?
Yikes.
Dang it. Why is OBS being weird? I can't open it.
A noble death. Oh,
Oh.
you might be able to defend.
I live.
Nope.
Not. Fuck.
Oh, you made us lose stars, you idiot! Why would? Okay, I was gonna be like, why would you go? Oh well.
Oh no.
What's happening?
This is where.
Oh no!
Dude, you're hurting my ears. Stop.
Oh, hey, OBS is back. Sweet.
Jesus.
Oh, nice.
Dude, I think even with a plus evasive tactics, you would not be able to evade. Please don't die. Oh.
Nah, I don't know if they'd be that interested in that story.
Please use your air support card or fucking don't and die.
Got this.
Defend. You literally cannot take damage if you
You
defend.
have 6 defense.
I need help!
Jesus Christ.
Don't worry, Neon was.
Oh,
Neon.
thank God.
But don't worry.
I don't have the appropriate cards for this.
This is
I
Neon's
pretty
fault.
much need to revive. This is dumb.
I blame Neon.
Hey!
I hate this.
But
It's good to see you. How's it
Get up.
going?
I don't like this. This is scary. I don't like chickens anymore.
I healed.
He's just a chicken.
I wish I was able to play as Sugary.
I don't like chickens
Deal
anymore.
with
They're
it.
scary.
I need the health.
Yeah.
They're just all stuck.
Alright, if you ever think you're in a boatload of trouble, just ask me.
Oh.
I have a question. Is the number of dice you have dependent on how many other chickens there are on the board?
No.
Maybe.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
That could
Because
very
there's
well
2
be.
other chickens, and he has 2 extra dice.
Oh,
And he also has.
if you're talking about the boss with the dice drop, I thought you
Well, he has a.
I have
he just
no
got-
idea what that is,
He's
but
gonna have 4 dice now.
were. Well, Avengers assemble.
We need to take out the chickens, and now.
I can't revive for shit though. You're asking too much.
No. I wanted to fucking say new. I would have wanted to be funny. I couldn't do that. See what I get.
We need to get to the other side and get the chickens.
I have. Should I keep the I'm on fire or the air
No.
support?
Get rid of I'm on fire.
I want to be on fire. Oh, all game plus 2 defense. I didn't even know.
Oh, Jesus. Did he just land on his own card?
Yes.
Jesus.
I should probably do my air support, sure.
I want to revive, guys. I want to revive,
no.
guys. TNT, why do you have to
gotta
fucking
get it,
waste
too.
your revive card?
It doesn't revive people!
Go on to hell.
It does.
Go on to hell. Go. No, you doing? Go on to hell. You.
You didn't take damage, shut up.
I can't heal myself, man. So, shut up.
Yes.
We got
Wait,
it,
Max,
don't worry.
you really need health. What the fuck? Max is
Yeah.
1 health.
Yes, he's landing on the health spot. You need to heal him.
I want to revive, guys. Can someone
I
revive
would suggest
me?
not getting on any boss spots. I'm pretty sure he has like 7 dice.
Nah, dude, he has like 500,000 of them. Dude, there's so many boss spots. What the fuck?
I like how they're all just over there.
We need to kill the chickens!
Well,
Well,
somebody
we
go
fucking
over there.
can. I'm
I've
dead.
been
I
trying!
There you go.
can't. Oh, thank you. Just what I wanted.
Oh.
Kill it, kill the
You're,
fire.
Oh.
you're dead.
Kill-
You're dead. You're dead.
Max, no. Max, no!
You're dead.
Ah, so close. Oh, I didn't need the health this time. Oh well.
Yeah, fucking look
Does
at
somebody,
the screen.
somebody have it to where they can revive. I need to get out. Dude, use your fucking long distance shot, dude. Oh
No,
shit!
gang up on him. Gang up
Yeah.
on him. Gang bang him. Gang
Get
bang
him.
him.
Oh dear.
Kill it!
Someone kill that thing!
Kill it!
Kill it with fire!
We can't.
Yes, I'm going to stop him. I ain't fighting that monster.
I wish you
Kill
Oh,
could.
stop my
Go
hope.
fight him! Go
Kill it.
fight him! Go
Hope.
fight! Go
Oh,
fight!
Kill it!
Kill him.
Ah! Die! He's
Now
dead!
you're.
I mean, I'm up here, but oh well!
You're
Just
fucked.
kill the other one!
Good luck. Good luck.
Oh, goodbye, Neon.
He's behind enemy lines.
No, that's it. Probably. If it would've worked, it'd work.
Wait. I'll attack him.
Yeah, there you go.
Go,
Wait, I
go to
can
the
make it
teleport.
over.
We
Oh,
need to
fuck,
get to the
I'm
other
dead.
side.
I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm just dead.
Mistakes were made.
Oh, no.
Vip!
You could have made that.
Hey.
You're playing a sugar.
Vipper says, Newt, I swear to Celestia, there better not be gangbang shenanigans in this household, damn it.
You could have evaded it. Should have evaded
Max, if I missed the evade, I would have
Dude,
died.
I play as sugary more than you
Kill
do.
the chicken. Kill the chicken. Kill the chicken.
Max?
I want to kill the
rolled
chicken.
a 4, I would have died.
I am the greatest
Ah!
sugar so you need a lesson.
Why did you lose so much then, Max?
Ah!
No, I beat you more times than you beat me.
That is
Oh,
a very
no, I'm
incorrect
mega
statement.
dead.
No,
I'm
that
mega
is a
dead.
very correct statement.
I'm alive.
When was the last time you won TNT?
The last time I played
Okay, and that was?
a while ago, so...
You didn't win last
Wait, kill the chicken.
Kill it! Kill it with fire! Do I have any coffee left?
Kill it!
Kill it! Kill it!
I do not have coffee left. This makes me very sad.
Oh, I can.
Matt, could I
Oh,
admit
shit!
it?
Oh, I'm dead. I'm dead.
And you have minus 2 defense! Oh, shit!
I'm dead.
Oh,
Aha!
that's why playing as sugar is great, because you can
We're dead together.
Newt, I feel like we're both going to die at this point.
Thank you. Now we live.
I didn't help the best I could.
We have 30 stars. Someone get more stars, please, for the love of God.
We just need to kill the chicken. We don't need the stuff.
No. We need stars so we
Oh.
can
Ah!
get cards, dickhead.
I killed it!
What? Oh!
And you thought I was going to die.
Oh, well, what's happening?
See, he only has 2 dice now.
See, me helping you defense fucking makes you lose. No, he don't.
He's not.
Oh, you can have made that. You can have made that.
Max, I hate you so much.
Okay, if it was me, I would have gone. Probably.
That's not how it works, Max.
You. Sorry.
Fuck me.
My orange.
I really don't like this.
Don't
I
worry.
enjoy this.
I gave you defense. Somebody kill that other chick. Kill it.
We almost level up by wins, dude. What the fuck is this?
I think. See, TNC, if you had the orangey that me or Neon, you could have evaded.
I hate you so much right now, Max.
Well, go get good orangey. Oh, fuck.
Oh!
Neon? I'm confused.
That could have ended very bad for Leon.
Oh, I don't like. I don't like that. What is that red square? Boss will target all players within one panel, dealing damage equal to boss level times number of targets. Otherwise, get the hell out of that area.
Don't worry, even if you guys stop.
Kill
Fight
him.
him.
No.
What are you doing?
It would have
Yeah,
been worth
are you
it,
insane?
I would have had to fight 2 of them! I would have had to fight 2 of them on 2 HP!
He has
Would've
1
been
dice
worth it.
if you kill it.
I mean, you're not.
It's either I kill it or I die.
Yes.
It only has 1 HP, remember? You would have killed it.
I have 2 HP! I would have still had to fight the full HP thing that was underneath it!
You have a card that fully heals you. Fucking use it.
We are not 4th level! That is a 4th level card. We are 3rd level.
You
Oh,
gotta
wait,
kill
fuck.
both of them.
Do you want me to leave the call?
And you too!
I'm thinking.
You're running out of time.
I'm
There's
thinking!
5 seconds. Well,
Yeah, you're right.
Fine, fine. But you guys are never going to be able to get out of a situation if he's behind you now. You see?
What do you mean?
Oh, fuck.
I'm over here. You're
I
still
have
over
negative 2
here.
defense.
We're
I'm
doing the
so
dirty
sorry.
work, Max.
I'm
Go.
just saying that I'm alive over here. I'm not over here. I'm trying to help you guys. As long as I'm alive, we're fine.
Yeah, see? There's no need to yell at me.
Yes, there was need to yell at you because
I was not planning on dying. Alright? I ain't dying. Because if somehow we all die, that's bad. Very bad.
yeah, but if you die, it's because the rest of us are alive. Hold on, I gotta do something real quick.
All units on the field are healed by 1 HP.
Why does the boss fucking hate me, dude?
I don't know, but you've been doing a lot of damage. Oh,
That's a lot of damage!
I'm also
I'm
dead.
sorry I jinxed it.
Don't kill the chicken. Try to survive.
Oh, now you want me to survive! Now you don't want me to die!
He's
Well, now there's
spawning
a
another
million-
chicken at the end of the turn. We need to
Now
get rid of
there's
this
a
one
million
fast.
boss fucking panels. I don't want us all to die so we game over again.
Well, you see, look at this. He only has 1 dice.
Dude, you can level up.
He's going to have 2 dice at the end of the turn because he's summoning another chicken. You see, that's one of his cards.
Max, go level up.
Aha.
All
we gotta
enemies recover
we gotta
HP equal to boss
We gotta
level.
kill 8 more enemies. Or we're gonna get 100. We're doing okay. We're not losing.
Okay, well.
He only has one dice, don't worry.
That's not bad.
We
Yeah!
pacified him. Nice job. You did. You did some damage. Good job.
You know, I gotta admit, TNT actually did something. Actually, the one you wanted to check.
I am being very useful right
I'm dead again. This is gonna take years.
Good job, Tim.
My watch is yelling at me now.
Everyone's yelling at you.
Yeah, everyone hates me, man.
Yeah, it's a fact. Accept it.
And thus, I leave the call. Okay.
You can't leave, you're streaming.
No, screw you guys. Jesus, okay.
Group?
Is it my internet?
No, that's me.
Is
No,
my internet fucking up?
No, it's me.
No.
Although it is your turn.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't. Oh my
Okay,
God.
no, your internet actually did die.
Yeah.
I hate my internet. Oh.
You must come back to us, Max.
Tell your internet to stop being gay.
You know, if they would just get the fuck off of Netflix and shit, like, everybody in my house is over the age of 50, like, they're all dinosaurs.
Kill the boss.
No, don't do the chicken next to the boss. The chicken.
Good
next to
plan,
the
good
boss.
plan. I mean,
I'm trying to get.
since I have more health, I'm more confident about fighting the thing that's under the chicken!
Lost fucking
Nice.
connection. Don't
Nice.
die. Don't die on me.
Nice one, Neon. Nice.
Yeah.
Don't die on me.
Nice.
Great success.
I mean, this guy's still going to attack me, but now he's only going to have one dice, so I can probably dodge him.
Did she die?
No.
Did she kill the chicken?
No.
What the fuck happened?
Okay, I'm going to have to defend this one.
Neon killed the extra chicken.
Can I,
Therefore,
can I get back in now?
No.
just wait until the round ends. Need to.
Ah! Holy crap!
You're probably.
You've joined at a great time!
You warp away, warp away, warp away!
Teleport.
Why are you saying?
Teleport, 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 teleport!
You can't stop me. I'll
That's
kill
a
the
double
chicken.
fight.
I mean,
Yeah.
the chicken only has one dice, so it's not completely bad. Now, if the chicken had more than one dice, it would have been
See
awesome.
that one spot that I was standing on apparently is the only spot that's not an extra boss panel.
Thank
So
you!
there you go.
What?
Thank you!
Dude, you lucked the fuck out.
X, why?
He has 3 defense. He's
Fly,
good.
fly.
Oh,
Shit.
shit.
This chicken even
Darwin
stopped
sent me a
throwing
message.
my
Hold on.
defense
Home,
rolls, so
home,
I
home,
have
home,
problems.
please.
Yeah, no, I definitely plan on going home. Yep.
You only have
Country
one dice, most
roads, take me home, away from that giant ass chicken!
of the time. He only has one dice. Now's the time to strike.
I'm fucking dead.
Everybody strike! No, you're not dead anymore. You get help. I'm at 1 health. I'm scared.
Yeah, you just heal up. You just heal up.
Why do I die so quickly? And I haven't even fought really.
It's cause you try to evade when you have 1,000,000 fucking defense.
Yeah, you are minus 2 evade. You're minus 2 evade and plus 2 defense.
Hey, I mean, at least it doesn't do any damage.
Wow.
Whew.
Well, you see, that's not really what I wanted.
I got him.
Thank you.
Why do we both get dashes?
Because I'm cool.
Yeah.
Got this. You got this. If any chickens spawn over here, I'll take them out.
They
I'll
spawn
try
on the
to-
boss, Max.
Fuck, I'm going to.
If any chickens somehow manage to get over here, I'll take them out.
Ow!
Why'd you drop it?
Droppo.
Max, heal. You fuck. You're
I
1
got this.
HP.
I win.
That was so.
Calculated risk.
We can Norma now, can't we?
Wait, what is that
we
times
can't.
2? Oh, it heals.
Yeah.
We can't. We
It
can't-
heals 2 HP.
Another
But...
chicken has spawned. Another chicken has spawned. Panic.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well,
good
luck,
I'll
Max.
do it by me.
Oh,
I mean, you did
Don't
say.
worry, I got 1 health.
Ah!
Don't worry, I got 1 health.
no. I tried, Max.
Oh,
I tried.
damn.
Someone.
Oh, you see.
Yes, take out the chicken. Take out the chicken.
Somebody spawned over
No!
Just take the pit stop. What are you doing? Take the pit stop.
This is my pit stop.
And then you just die. Hey, you could have made that.
Stop at
Meg.
home, man.
I'm gonna calculate
Max,
it.
you ass.
Here I go.
Max,
Wow.
you're-
Ah!
I'm trying my hardest, okay? I don't play as this character at all.
Yes, 2 dice. I would not take the risk if I was you.
But I got 6 health.
Do the move. Do the
Neon,
move.
teleport,
Do the
teleport, teleport. Teleport and get over to where I am. And help me.
Teleporting is just
Help me, get the fuck over here. Thank you.
But now I'm next to him.
It doesn't matter, go home.
You're home.
Run away. You see, I don't need it because I got full health.
Yeah, but at least you're over here so you can help me.
But he's just gonna attack me. What was the point of that? What was the point of what was the point of dodging him? I told you, what was the point of dodging him? Look, he still kills me. What was the point?
Well, you couldn't do anything else. The fuck, dude?
So I could have just taken a faster approach.
Blame Newt, he told you to do it.
Newt, fudge you!
Sorry, dude. I just like killing chickens and running away from them.
Oh. Well, at least this one's dead.
Hey, we can fucking level up.
No, we can't.
Ah,
Yeah, we can.
We
You had to,
can.
you had to get 10. You had to get 18 enemies, dumb.
yeah.
Oh.
You can level up.
Oh.
Hey, Neon, how about you revive and then go home?
Well, you see, that's a big if.
Oh well.
Hey,
I don't.
Max, how about you revive and go home?
How about you fight the boss
That's
and
not
die?
No, no.
Well,
Nah,
defend.
I'm not about that. I'm not about that.
Hell yeah,
I
let's
like
go.
this thing.
You're not about that dead life?
go home.
Go home.
Well, here we go.
Country roads, take me
Now we
home.
Oh, we're at max normal.
Now we just need stars, I guess.
Which one of us has the most powerful, like,
I don't have
Now
any.
we just gotta focus on the boss. That's all we gotta do.
No, just.
Hold on, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Newt has the most powerful hyper, doesn't he? If you use your hyper, the boss
Yeah, it
can
is
get you,
privilege.
can't he?
Yeah.
God
Oh my
damn it.
fucking god, dude.
Dropped it.
Ah.
And a fucking dropped it. What is the fucking?
I'll take my chances over here.
Oh,
Neon,
nice.
how
Now
about
we have
you
to
go?
wait.
Well, can't wait for the CPU to take control of his turn. Almost heaven, West Virginia. Country home, country road, country home, country
Yeah.
road.
Oh, I just unplugged my headphones again as I sat down. That's great.
Good job.
Wait. There are no homes now.
You gotta go fight that fucking chicken. You have to fight it. You have to.
Fuck.
So, wait, why do we have no homes? What did I miss?
Uh,
What did I miss? I just sat down. Who deleted our homes? Why is it all boss panels? This seems to be wildly in the boss's favor, man.
oh my god, I lived.
There's no heal points. There's
The
nothing.
wonder. The kid wonder. The miracle kid. He did it.
I am Jesus. Why is there no home? I want my home back. I like
can only
my
protect
home.
New.
Country
Oh, I got
roads, take me home.
See? Trash.
Oh my god.
Really?
Over. Neon, you gotta go take out that chicken, man. Neon, you gotta go take out that chicken. Neon, that chicken. Neon's gonna get up and then he's gonna.
Fuck.
The moment I'm getting up, I'm dying, you know.
I don't like this, guys.
Because I'm gonna revive, and I'm gonna be forced to fight this guy immediately.
I don't feel so good, Max. And then he just
I
died.
know you live.
TNT, you gotta get up. You have to get the fuck up.
I wanna
Oh,
live,
here
guys.
comes-
That was the furthest from getting up I've ever seen.
Here comes.
That's like the equivalent of me getting up in the morning.
Oh!
Wow. How the hell? Wow.
It's a
Well,
miracle! It's a miracle! Oh fuck, he's dead!
oh, I can survive!
I will survive.
Also, is it just permanently boss panels everywhere now?
I think.
Yes, it seems that way.
Why the hell?
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
I don't think I can be a miracle again.
Okay,
So,
I think we need to focus the boss a little more, guys.
Yeah, you know that thing I was doing the entire game?
No, don't go towards that chicken. He has something activated. Don't you see like the red glowing next to him? Wow.
It's a miracle!
Oh, hell.
It's a miracle! Let's
Max,
go!
you just killed yourself.
What do you mean?
Kill the chicken, kill the chicken.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yay,
we need
I've
to
done it!
revive, like, right the fuck now.
Yeah, I'm at 3 health.
Should I?
Defend,
Yeah, I
defend,
should, I
defend.
should.
Yeah, play safe. Play safe.
Bam!
What?
That's why I told you not to get close to him.
That's fine.
Oh, look, I'm about to die.
Oh!
Oh yeah, you're dead.
How about you defend? Well, shit. It all comes down to me again.
Max, do not die.
I wanna
Please.
revive.
Live?
I will call you Darbad forever if you do this.
Thank you!
Oh! Yes.
Kill it with fire, Max!
Chicken.
I feel like next time I need to be a support class.
Okay,
Ah, no!
okay. It's fine.
I can't defend it.
It's fine. It's fine. We have a guy alive.
I tried my hardest.
We can still win this.
We just gotta believe in ourselves with the power of friendship.
I sacrificed myself.
This is an anime, isn't it now?
Dude, now's
Pretty
the time
much,
to
yeah.
fucking focus on that chicken because he doesn't have any
Oh
more
my
time.
god.
Ah!
We need
Jesus
to
Christ.
focus on him right now. Right now.
We're
We
all
also need to-
fucking dead.
It's hard to focus on something when I'm alive! I will survive! Something and other, how the lyrics go in this song.
No. Oh no.
We're gonna spawn in another
Oh
one.
no.
Well,
Why, thank you.
There goes our one chance.
Hold on. We're not dead yet. Not all of us.
Spawning another chicken next round.
Evade.
You could evade it.
Evade.
I-
You
You're
sure?
I'm not.
Are you sure?
I'm not putting any input in this.
Ah!
Woo! The heart of the dice! 6 HP!
I'm up!
Yeah, and you can kill him this round.
Avengers assemble!
Kill him.
Kill him!
I can just evade this!
Kill him!
Ah! Why? Why? No! Come on!
Find the garbage was that?
Kill it with fire, Max. Kill it with fire.
I'll kill the little baby one. Don't worry.
I wanna
Murder the baby chicken! Murder the evil baby chicken! We're all alive!
Defend me.
We're all alive!
Defend me.
Well, I was gonna fucking fight him, so you probably should have defended me.
Well, he's gonna go for me.
Yeah, he's gonna go for him. And also
Yeah,
you're tanky.
but then I could have fucking defended him, and if you defended me, that's what you should have done.
You're a tanky character.
I feel like red and blue would be perfect for this kind of thing. So I should go in as what's her name next time. Wow! Oh, how difficult would that be?
Kill it! Kill a fire! Kill it!
You know, I mean,
Why?
but then you get a 1.
Oh no.
Hey, look, you got it. Evade.
Snake eyes.
Attack!
Die.
Oh!
Die.
Woo! Somebody kill this thing!
Wait, I can't even attack the chicken.
I can't attack any of it because I'm behind it. I mean, I'm in front of it.
You have fun with that, Max.
I'm fine.
Okay, he's 3 HP.
Everybody
so
attack.
kill him.
Everybody attack him.
Gang bang him.
Someone fucking kill him, please.
I got this, don't worry.
I would just like to tell you that if we don't kill this,
defend.
I'm pretty sure if you don't, I'm pretty sure. Oh,
Oh! Go freaking team! Yeah!
I did it!
That is how you do it!
I think the boss would have killed us if it was still alive now. Because it had a thing where it would deal damage to the amount of fucking levels that it was. And we were right in front of it. So I think it would have killed us.
Let's try another boss now.
Yes!
There's other bosses.
Dude, that shit was really stressful.
Yeah, it kinda was. I mean, you get Jesus, I got 3 fucking cosmetics out of that. You get a lot of shit out of it. It's like a fucking raid.
Well, that's what it is, basically.
And I win a game! I got a fucking...
Hey Max, ready up!
But you should put it on White Winter or Clover.
I don't have either of those.
But I need that because it's a challenge.
Challenges don't seem to work here because I didn't get
I don't-
anything. We
No,
definitely
I
completed
didn't
Win Normas, and I didn't get anything for it.
I mean, I got my win 1 game challenge.
Newt.
Why are you yelling at me? Newt's the one that's also not fucking ready up.
I know, when I said it, Newt was ready. Oh wait, we do need to, wait, I'm sorry, we do need to change.
I'm going to spectate. I need to smoke, dude. I need to. That shit was stressful, dude. I need to chill out for a bit.
Understandable.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Where was it? I just saw it. There we go.
Oh,
You said you wanted one of these? Here you go.
yeah.
Which one do I need? Yeah,
whatever one you want to do, I will do.
Okay,
If anyone wants to ready up.
You guys.
I've been ready up.
Do the boss. That's a
TNT.
It's TNT
Boy, I'm
that's
not
not
the only
ready up.
person.
New person. There we go.
He's level 30 and he's only won 1 game. How? Yeah, I'm gonna stay as the fucking guardian, dude. I like playing as the guardian.
Ah, I see.
Heal an ally 1 HP when entering their
Dude,
panel.
he's level 14 in this new thing.
Ping 5 stars times are...
Like really leveled up, but only 1-1.
I either want to be guardian or support. Which are you all?
I think you take a random guess what I am, and you'll probably find it. You'll probably figure it out, won't you?
Alright. Alright, I think I got what I need.
The other person is indeed level 14 on attacker.
Oh my god. I blame TNT.
I could just leave and leave you to fight the boss by yourself.
Wow, how is... Then again, the CPU's probably dead. I just like roasting TNT, it's fun.
I'm going to stab you one of these days next.
Okay, do it. I will
Not in real
laugh.
life, just we're like gonna be playing a game and all of a sudden you're just gonna get stabbed.
I will laugh and I will enjoy it.
There.
Why are we not ready to get up? Oh, there we go. Oh, my waifus are dead. There.
Why, thank you.
Where's the chicken?
There is no chicken, we're playing a different boss
We're
this time.
playing against the Rock! Oh shit!
What
Oh
does
shit,
this
it's
one have?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson!
On boss turn, do not stop when challenging a player and gain +1 attack for every player fought until the end of the turn. He gets more attack the more people he fights per turn.
I don't understand what this guy just said. He said, why DFND on Howler?
I'm gonna guess the last word's healer, but I don't know what DFND is supposed to mean. So,
I thought he was speaking like, foreign. Boneless. TNT, do you like it boneless?
No, I don't like it boneless.
Why don't you play as that guy that he's playing as? You're usually always good at Yuki. You can't level up with that fucking thing. You can only level up with wins. That's dumb.
deal 1 damage to self, cannot go under 1 HP with this effect. So he's just going to basically hurt himself.
Going in. I did it.
So, this boss, we shouldn't all attack him at once because for every fight he's in, he gets +1 attack.
Hmm.
Do you
Oh.
understand?
That's not good.
Let's all fight him at once. We'll be fine. New, what are you saying? I can't hear you. Your phone is shit.
What the hell?
Dude, what is a howler? Why? You're there.
Oh, dear.
How do you type in the chat?
Enter.
Yeah, enter.
You're there everywhere.
Whoa, why did I... I just want red and blue. Here we go again.
Why do you need red and blue?
Because. Reasons. Red and blue helps me, actually. Like, extremely. Oh, we have 2 wins! Let's land on something! Let's land in our homes!
It's a ghost.
Did they do 1 damage to me?
No, they malfunctioned and dealt 1 damage to themselves. And they're gonna do it next turn, too!
So each turn they hurt themselves?
That's what the card does.
Card, malfunction. Deal 1 damage to himself. Cannot go under 1 HP with this effect.
That's our...
Don't worry, guys. I got us 1 star.
Yeah!
I can do it. Oh, I'm dead.
Whoa!
I'm going to guess it's Newt. You're gonna malfunction again next turn. What kind of cards do you have? It's Turbo. Roll 3 dice for movement this turn. Lost, effect. Max, your turn.
What? Why didn't you tell me?
Aw.
You just wasted your turn, that's what. It didn't matter, so.
I didn't TNT. Oh, who's that?
It's new.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi!
Dude, there's an available spot you can get in. Right
Yeah.
now.
I'm joining.
Okay, guys, you are going to hate me for this, but I promise I have a very good reason for doing this.
You suck.
I had a very good reason, okay? I have red and blue now. Besides, it's 3 stars. That's not hard. Especially when the boss keeps taking a why are you hitting yourself. Oh, wait. For any damage you take, consume a stack for each 3 damage. What?
Wait, I only have 1 health. What the fuck?
You see you got hit.
Darwin
Bless you.
asked for help from Darwin asked for help from me. I said, "Give me $50 and I'll help." Wreck loser.
I love rolling ones.
Ones are
Dude, he is red and
great.
blue.
Yeah, that's why I landed on the drop thing instead of the card thing.
You get in here.
I'm in.
Nah. Shut up.
I win.
Barrier? I don't like barrier.
Is it my turn again? Oh, I'm ready to do nothing again. Oh, it's 2! I love 2s. It's not a 1, but you know. Would have liked it if it was more than 2.
I can't use this! Ah, great. Oof. Maybe that would be why. If he doesn't move too far away from me, I can hurt this guy.
Dude, it's your turn. Go.
I am.
Go.
He didn't move! Boss didn't move! Oh, this is perfect for a card I've got.
Oh, I got 4 now! 5!
Oh no!
Good. Kill him.
What?
Why
It
are you
switches
timid?
to... It switches to level 3 if I have red and blue on me. Are you serious right now? That is the dumbest crap I've seen. Well,
Kill it with fire.
I can't. My fire card ain't working.
But you're supposed to kill
Try it again.
We don't have level 3.
Everybody, level up. Oh, you use
leveled
it.
up.
I can't use it. I'm not close to him
You
anymore.
gotta use. Well, Neon, you gotta go use it. Damn it, Neon. This is what you get.
Oh no. I have received a shield. How dare you? But thank you, seriously.
Is it my turn to shine? Aww. All that and I only did
Who
4
the fuck
damage.
is MVP Vampy. Who the fuck is Vampy, dude? Why do they sound like vampire? Name's too similar. Need to get a new name.
I fixed it. Well, you know, I'd like to heal.
Name is too similar. Well, dude, stop going around the board.
No.
All Newt
What if Newt wants exercise? Come on.
Wow, never even thought of that. Which woman do I give it? The furry or the ninja?
I vote for the ninja. Thank you. Ninjas need all the protection they get if they get seen.
Right. Who's the dumb one? I don't remember. Do I know that person? Most valuable. What the fuck is MVP? It's supposed to be MVP. Most valuable. Bambi. Wait, when did I die? I wasn't dead. When did I die? When did I get up? Wait, it doesn't take 1 damage anymore?
I don't fucking know.
I'm so confused about this one. Somebody kill it. Fuck's sake.
Where
Yeah,
is it,
go.
actually? Where is it? Oh, it's on the
Fly
other side of the board. Okay.
Fly away.
Damn it! I wanted to roll something low. Well, alright, here's what we're gonna do. I know I have 2 HP, but I'm still gonna try this.
You're
I mean,
dead.
as long as one of us are alive. Oh.
Damn it!
As long as one of us are alive. Where did TNT go? I haven't heard him.
I am right here.
No. I thought you died.
No.
This boss is difficult.
Oh my god, dude.
I'm the only, the only one alive.
Max, don't
Me not
die.
like this.
Max, don't die, please.
I have an idea. Wait, where'd it go?
It was actually kinda smart.
Where did it go?
The boss is right there on the green panel. Bottom.
okay. I had to. Oh, I had to.
I would be too, Vamp. I would be too. Oh, Jesus. Darpax!
What?
I think I just scared the dice out of your hands.
No.
Well, I had to do that, New. I mean, look, I was able to buy some time.
Whoa, 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 why does it get 3 dice? What happened?
Not much
the
at
fuck?
all.
Oh, that's why.
I could have waited. Oh.
Oh,
Everybody get up! Everybody get up! Please! No? Okay, fucking me. Oh, well.
stop by home, please.
I did it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Get the fuck up! Get the fuck up! Get the fuck up! Get the fuck up! Thank you! I bought time!
Fuck.
I am basically the Iron Horse of this fucking team. I'm trying to stay alive so you guys can get up and do shit. I don't like this. I don't like this. I'm gonna sacrifice myself. DNC, buy time.
No.
Fuck.
That's
Well,
nice.
that didn't work.
Use nice jiggle. Use nice jiggle.
I didn't know what to do.
Oh, nice.
At least he's buying this time. Go to the star
to
panel. The star panel. The star panel. The star panel.
The star panel. The star panel. The star panel. The star panel. The star panel. The star panel.
Everybody get up. Everybody get up.
Okay, fine. I'll get up.
You gotta get the fuck up. Okay. Never mind.
Vamp, I'm not gonna win this shit, okay? Trust me.
Don't let Vamp down, Newt. Come on.
We're gonna win. I don't think we're gonna win this. I'm just trying to buy time.
I've been dead for so many turns now.
Hey, at least I gave TNT a little bit of time to, buy time.
Don't give up yet.
Stay at home.
Yeah.
Stay at home. Stay at home. Stay at home.
Home,
Home.
stay
Home.
home.
My aid.
What the f? If you die, I'm gonna kill you.
Did I die?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, and you gotta do something. Don't go to the boss.
I don't plan on it, man.
Oh my fucking god, please let me revive for fuck's sake. I've been dead for so many turns now.
No, we're just buying some time. I just need some time and money, and we'll go to Tahiti, Arthur. We got this. We just need one more big score. Fucking Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh, that's not buying time. That's not Tahiti either. What are you doing? Tahiti.
Defend. Thank you.
Buying nukes some time. Oh, we got it.
Okay, time to go to the boss, guys.
Yeah, everybody beat up the boss. Roll up.
All I need to do is get close to that boss.
I bought time and everyone. See what I did? It was all my strategy. I'm the
Yeah,
architect.
determination. But yeah,
I'm
deal.
the architect
I
of
have.
this team.
I can, if I get close, I can deal 2 damage without even doing anything else, as long as I don't die.
He has 33 health. What is 2 gonna do?
Oh, but every little bit helps.
Do I use my gamble?
If you want.
I'm gambling. I
Hey.
did damage.
Why is he activating turbo? He couldn't go anywhere.
Thank you. Don't, Max. Oh my
Aha!
god. You're dead.
No. Oh.
You're dead. Oh,
What
penetrate
happened
the
to my
boss
plus
really
two-
hard and see
what
if it
happened to
does
my
more
plus
2
two
damage.
evade? Why
Yeah.
don't I have my plus 2 evade anymore? Oh. Because of his card. I see.
I'm gonna use the card.
I bought some time. Even though everyone's alive. Oh, you got another fucking White Christmas gesture.
If only I had red and blue, it'd be like so much more effective. It's going backwards now.
Oh, I don't like the look of this one. I think we die.
Don't think that
we
yet.
die.
Don't think that yet. We're not down and out yet.
We will survive.
We won last round
We
without any
survived.
hits at the end, so we're good.
And thus it begins. How did that work? Yeah, now you owe $846.73, Max, for all that time you bought.
I'm not done with buying time though. Gotta buy some more time. Oh, I don't think we're buying time today, boys. Defend. You gotta defend and hope to get a drink.
Rats.
I love that noise he made before he died.
Right?
What the fuck am I listening to, and why is everyone dead, basically?
The firework is how I feel. Quality content. Oh, you're up. Say, I bought neon. I mean, I bought some gem for TNT. Buying time. 1 nickel at a time. But I'm not a rapper.
I don't like you, Max. You're dead.
That's what I get for my time. Oh shit. It's trapped.
Guys, I have a plan, okay? Listen to my plan.
Yeah, my plan involves Tahiti and buying time. 1 more score, Arthur. Arthur, 1 more score! And we'll have time in Tahiti with money.
You know what that voice reminded me of? Do you know what voice that reminded me of?
What?
All you had to do was follow the damn train, CJ!
I'll take 2 number 9. Number 9 large. 2 number 45s. 1 with TNT. And a large soda.
Oh, Jesus.
I prefer. Is it weird that I prefer the chicken?
Yes.
No. I mean, it depends on what you mean by Wow! Wow!
How do you suck?
Oh, fuck me.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no!
Wait, I have negative one.
Defend. Defend.
What
You
the
won't die.
fuck are these stats?
You won't die. Hopefully.
Deal 1 damage to every player for every positive attack point they have. Ow.
Go home, or fucking don't.
Got it. Oh. I got it. See? I'm trying to stack up wins so we can fucking Norma, dude. That's what I'm gonna try and do now.
I mean, that's not a bad strategy. Because if we get 10 wins, we can level up. Wait, heal us one.
Wait, you can heal?
Oh.
Heal me, dude. Heal me. Heal me.
Now here's the. He's gonna move, isn't he? Crap. Now here's the deal. I don't want to die, so revive this teammate. Yes.
For 35 stars, you. Okay, whatever.
Do I use another gamble?
Yeah, do it.
I can't, apparently.
Yeah, because he used all the stars.
We gave up on trying to collect stars a long time ago, man.
Nah, man. Well, I live. See, that's because I keep giving you the shield. I'm the only shielder over here. Like, I can't shield for now. Oh, okay.
I feel like I'm gonna have to be a revenger if I'm playing this character again, because I cannot stand having 4 HP right now.
Got another kill, dude. I'm buying this win. I bought a sign now, I'm buying this win.
Come at me, bro. Finally, damage.
TNT's kind of fucking it up, but I'm trying to get his wins.
I will kill it. As I did last.
Unless it kills you.
It already did that twice, so shut up.
Like he killed me. Oh,
I'm good.
he's alive. He's alive. The boy's alive. You're welcome.
Remember when he was just malfunctioning in the beginning? I miss those times.
Well, I tried to help TNT the best I can, and I gave him a shield.
Oh, he ran
Don't
away
come
like
over
a
to
little
me.
bitch.
Go the other way. Don't come over to me. I swear to fucking God, I'll fucking.
What?
Thank you.
Get stars, dumbass.
Yeah, you should. You probably should have got stars, to be honest.
No.
I could use the health.
Gambling, boys. I killed myself.
Dude, Bam
Yeah.
loves it when you make those noises. It's quality content, he said. Who do I heal this time? Heal me on.
Thank you.
Guys, I killed myself. Are you proud?
I'm dead.
You're good. Just evade it.
I'm dead either way.
I don't think you can evade it, actually.
I don't think I can defend nor to evade. I was die.
There's only one way out. And that's to be a zombie.
Yeah,
No. Boss time.
I will admit, every time I see TNT walking towards me, I get a little bit scared.
why didn't I get a 4?
I'm still used to the rules where it's just like we're all against each other.
Help him.
I did.
You're gonna die for it.
Wow!
That
That's a
shield
lot-
saved you.
That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage! I'm gonna go pee. I'm gonna go pee.
Oh, it's got 11.
Oh, he's retarded.
I have 1.
I'm not gonna pee.
You used the cookie.
No, use the cookie TNT.
Eat a cookie! Don't eat this one, though.
Use the dice. Don't tell. Fucking
I do what I want.
fucking dumb idiot.
I do what I want.
He's gonna fuck you up now.
That's the plan.
I don't...
You gotta stay alive to where I can get up. Because TNT is gonna be dead after this, and I don't see Neon living for much longer.
Damn it, I wish I had another gamble so I could potentially kill myself.
You're gonna...
Neon's dead.
You were all gonna yell at me if I landed on the drop panel.
Well, either way.
Wow!
Oh my god.
Wow. That's some.
You're too slow!
Don't teleport. Don't be a dumb.
No, I wanted points, dude. Oh,
I mean stars. Well,
run away.
Oh! Deal 1 damage to all
Neon's
players.
Neon's dead.
Affected players cannot use cards. Great, my phone exploded and killed me.
Defend.
Dead.
Well, no matter what you did, you were gonna die.
Ooh!
I would like to get up, and I'd like it if Newt would be able to fucking buy time for me this time, like I bought time before. Dude, you gotta get up. Pog champ!
Oh, that means I get off.
Pog
I can
champ
kill
in the
myself.
champ, boys!
Hog chip in the champ, boys.
Oh my fucking god. It's you gotta get up. No, I say get up, TNC. Don't listen.
Stars.
Yeah, no, heal.
Stars.
Heal.
I can't...
I'm the only one who's damaged.
No, he's. Oh wait, yeah, he doesn't have anything.
Yeah, stars.
I'm fucking retarded.
Stars.
Oh my god.
You know what emote we need to use? Darbad.
Stars.
You can have that in the
I was thinking more Darbad.
Then have some of this.
Hang on, can I?
Fucking god, oh my.
There. I know we don't have the emote, but
What the fuck is that first email? It's a butt. What does it look like? Yeah, it is an ass.
I don't want to fight the boss.
When did TNT die?
2 years ago.
Drop it. Do drop it. Do not fight the boss, you'll fucking probably die. Unless you want to fight the boss, it's up to you.
Oh, okay.
Jesus.
I'm happy I didn't fight the boss, I would have died.
I'm finally up!
Oh, Vamp is slightly turned on. What do we do, guys? Do we kill him?
So Vamp is gay? I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently. Move. Yeah.
Oh, your Discord on PC died. When did your Discord on PC die?
A little while ago.
Why did it die?
Somebody clip that.
Okay.
Somebody clip that.
Clip what? I didn't see it.
I don't think you can clip on mobile, so I'm sorry.
It's fine. I saved the clip myself. Well, I hope I did.
Yay! Fuck! I just realized when I give somebody a shield, I'm giving up 2 of my health. I just realized that.
Oof.
Well,
Oh, if you got yourself a clip, go for it, because this is my
I
laptop.
should probably play as somebody with more health. I only have 4 health. And so
mean,
when I
you do heal, so
It's like
not really-
QP or Popo.
guess. Who has the most health in this game?
I think it's Popo.
I think me.
But I don't want to play as a little terrorist though.
That's the most health, though.
What if she's a terrorist?
Hey, Vamp, do you still have that clip ready to go? Because mine's not working.
Well, I'm gonna heal people again. Thank God I healed. I should probably start using like shield like sparingly. It's probably not best to use it at all times.
Alright, I want to start getting rid of cards. So, this one, getting rid of first.
But you're wasting your fucking...
I'm getting red and blue back, so I'm not useless.
But you're still...
Hold on. I'm gonna... Evade -2. I ain't risking that.
that. How about you evade that?
Alright, I'm going to the bathroom. Be back.
Everybody hurry up and take your turn so that we have to wait on Neon. Oh my god, I don't like that.
Neon is 1 HP and Max is 1 HP. Oh
I am
my
a
god.
full
I'm dead.
Ah. Right.
We're all gonna die.
Aw, dude,
This
we
is a
good.
good statement, yes.
See, we good.
Defend!
Defend. Thank you.
Neon, hurry up! Your turn! Wow, Neon's screwing us, dude. He's not even here. How rude. Do I see this firework?
No.
No?
Hiya.
Neon, your turn's been going on for 12 days. Been sitting here waiting.
Ooh, have fun dying, man.
Don't worry, TNT's alive, so at least one of us are alive.
You do know that I'm most likely going to land on the boss fight.
I'm dead.
That's fine.
We're
He's
getting
got
very
this.
close. We're
He's
getting
got
very,
this! Look, he's got it.
We're getting very close, but I feel like he's
Please.
dead.
Okay, I'm alive.
And then he uses the EMP. I knew it. I knew.
Damn.
He was gonna do. I knew he was gonna do that. I called it before he did.
I did not combine my character with the strategies well enough.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew he was gonna do that.
Alright, I know what to do.
X for being dumb.
I ran all the way downstairs. Ran all the way to the bathroom. Came back. That's why I'm out of breath.
Okay, I did all my challenges.
I'll
Dude,
take
why-
a break for a little bit. This.
I'm continuing to go.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna go store.
Take a break.
Use my coins.
I did. I did.
Dude, I have almost 300 oranges.
Wow.
Dude, why are you so out of breath?
I just said I went all the way downstairs. I ran.
Dude, you need to work on your cardio.
I haven't been in cross country forever. I had to go down, back up the stairs, and I still had to run all the way across
You
the
need to
house
work on
3
your
times.
cardio. You need to work on yourself.
You're saying this is the person who did cross country and
Hey, you're
track.
Hey, you're fine. Dude, you need to do more track.
I'm a high school graduate. No more of that.
I'm a high school dropout, okay?
Same.
Hold on.
Oh, nice. Everyone's a high school dropout. Except for fucking Neon.
I didn't know that Vamp was a dropout.
Yeah, he just said so in chat.
Damn. Wait, you're a dropout as well?
Yeah.
Oh shit, same.
I think I'm going to take a nap.
You're good.
Didn't you, like, just start streaming, though?
Yeah, like what?
How long have I been streaming? I've been streaming for about 2 hours now.
Yeah, you just started. Why is everybody tired?
Well, it's fucking 11 p.m. here.
No, it ain't.
It's
Oh.
almost 11:30.
Not anymore. Oh, hell yeah, it's Max Stream now. Thanks, Leon, I'm taking over.
Alright, time for that nap.
Wait, are you gonna nap? Are you gonna nap with your stream still up? What the fuck?
Neon Boy Naps live on stream.
Sleeping stream, Pog.
Okay, don't be mad, but now I'm actually kind of tired.
Dude, you need to work on your cardio.
Eh.
How are you gonna be able to do a marathon?
I can't click it from here.
How are you
I
gonna be
guess
able to
stream
do
over. Good night, everyone.
Oh, for good night. Wait, that's illegal. Well, Newt, you want to play some tabletop?
Hey, I'm here. Come on.
You said you were going to sleep.
You're the one who
Yeah,
understands
make up your
sarcasm.
mind. Make up your goddamn mind, dickhead.
I thought you all
I
understood
don't-
sarcasm.
I don't want to do the co-op thing anymore. I want to play regular.
I don't want to do regular though. That's what we've been doing the whole time.
God damn it! I don't want to do the stupid co-op bullshit.
Trust me, I'll be more useful this time. I have a good strategy.
Is it boneless though? Is it boneless?
Now, what was my strategy?
I'll
Crap.
try support this time.
If it's not boneless, I don't want it. I have green dice.
Wow, level 25, become a guardian spirit.
What should I be? Should I be guardian, support, or attacker?
Well, I'm gonna be a guardian, so
I'm support.
you could try the Avenger.
Okay, I'll go attacker.
Okay. Because if you're gonna go to like the guardian, I can go to like the Avenger, and then we can have like a full rounded group. Oh, okay, Panda. I'll see ya.
But I don't want to be the Avengers.
Well, do you want to be the defender or guardian?
I want to be the seeker.
Because I can switch to Avenger. I kind of like the idea of that, and then go into this character.
Co-op. Dude, I just want to play boneless. Is that so much to ask for?
Yeah, apparently it is.
Damn. Ah! I dropped my drop.
What?
Boneless.
No
Where do you
way!
get the where do you
I
get the
can't
fire
believe
character?
this.
I wasn't able to play as a fire character.
It's because he's a special little boy.
Oh, special.
I'm the special boy.
Well, Ralph, we don't care. Go back to The Simpsons.
Oh my god, dude. Everyone's
Why are we
trying
playing
hard.
against the fucking rock again? God damn it. CPU, help us. That's not helping!
This map
Mm.
is kind of tiny.
Yeah, this is gonna be probably fuckery when it comes time. Oh, okay, well.
Okay, the CPU is dead.
It's a solid boss, like Solid Snake.
Does that mean there's a liquid boss?
Does that mean there's
Colonel.
a gas boss?
Colonel, I seem to be a large floating rock.
I still think Meryl has the better fucking Snake voice, so.
Why do I have -2 evade? I don't get this boss. He's gay.
Because he has malfunction.
Actually, it's evasion down.
He's the one who's malfunctioning, though.
No. The special boy is malfunction. Hey, I mean we did 2 damage to it.
Mm-hmm.
Boneless ball.
Stars.
Run away. I got it.
Kill him.
I got it, don't worry. Oh,
You didn't kill him.
got it.
Max, you're gonna fucking die.
I got it. Don't worry, I got it. Wait, why didn't anybody go Guardian?
I'm support.
I said that I'd switch to the Avenger because I decided I wanted to do that more.
Yeah, but now nobody's gonna be shielded.
I said that I was doing it. We could have planned accordingly.
No, I said I was gonna play as the attacker.
That's a good point, fam. Water is just boneless ice.
So then, what would a gas be?
Boneless ice.
It's
Hmm.
boneless liquid, obviously.
Ah. Got that
Now
500
you see.
IQ over
Now
there.
you see. Should I do this?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
If you die, it's Newt's fault. He says you're.
Okay.
Max said, why not?
Nah, I didn't say a damn thing. Get the fuck up.
Oh, I can still move. Aww.
And you dead.
No, goodbye. Boneless
Later,
air.
dude. Have a good time. And
Damn it, no! Damn it!
Yeah, why'd you tell him to do that, Newt? Like, how could you?
I'm evil, okay?
Wow. What? Did I just hurt myself? I think I just hurt myself. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't.
you realize players who move into the same panel must battle you.
Aw. I'm good. I'm out. I didn't revive you. Fuck you, dude.
What a piece of...
I'm the worst support. I'm
What a fucking asshole.
I like how I, the support, am running around trying to kill the boss.
I think me and you have the wrong fucking sit-up over here, dude. Oh, fuck!
Wow.
Wait a minute. I thought if I got in the same panel, I have to fight it. What happened?
Apparently
Your
not.
mom's nickname is Gassy Ass? What the fuck?
She eats so much as a single. She eats so much as a single bean, and she like
Killing
is
the
gassy
boss.
for the rest of the week.
Fuck.
No.
I didn't kill the boss.
That's fucking karma. That is fucking karma, you piece of shit. That's fucking karma. That's fucking karma. You could have revived, but nope. Nope.
Well, you're dead.
You know, when I heard there was gonna be a co-op mode, I thought it was just gonna be 2 players against 2 players.
Yeah, same.
See, I'm doing better than you. No, I'm not dead. Because he's fucking stuck, he can't move.
Why not?
Because he has a movable object, you idiot! What a dumb...
Yeah.
Oh no.
Revive me, I'm the support.
You don't fucking support anything but yourself!
I support myself.
You fucking retard.
You should have revived me, dude. I could have revived you.
Shut the fuck up!
Wait, what do supports do? I don't even know what I can do.
They support things. I'm a support in life.
Well, I can't shield you though. I'm the worst fucking support.
No, that's Guardian.
But a support should be able to fucking shield.
Why would you want to talk about your... Okay, I don't even understand. That's weird.
It's called being sarcastic.
How about you revive him noon?
I'm dead though. Oh, I'm not alive though.
You know, I would have loved to be, you know, another healer right past your fucking body after what you did. You better
If I
fucking...
revive you, I have to fight the boss, and I'll probably die.
You better get me up.
So
Swear to God.
if I pass you up and fight the boss, what do you do?
You better fucking get me up. Ass negative that amount of numbers, so like your ass is so inverted that like it's stretched inside out.
Oh Jesus!
That's fucked up. Wait, I
Get me
wanna
up.
kill the
Get me the
boss.
fuck up. No, you.
I revived you, dickhead. Shut the hell up.
Okay. I was about to say I was gonna fucking kill you.
That's what we need to not think about there.
I didn't know I could move after reviving.
Piece of
Support
shit.
is kinda OP. Don't fight him. Or fight him, your choice.
Yeah, no, Vamp, we don't need to imagine that right now. We don't need to imagine that.
Wait, that's kinda kinky though. Why don't
No.
we need to imagine that?
Newt wants
Can
to
I
fuck.
even...
Dude, Newt wants to be with a woman and have like the chest of the front right on him and then be able to touch the other.
I didn't realize that I'd. Yeah.
How did I put my dick in
Vamp,
that,
you were
though?
supposed to kiss the goddamn train. That's all you had to do, Vamp. That's the
I can't
goddamn
revive
train.
Sorry.
Why didn't you revive me?
I couldn't do on the same tile as
That's no excuse.
you. Yes, it is. You want to be hit by a train, but why though?
Dude, he's
It
like
just
HK.
causes
He doesn't-
pseudo poison, and then
Dude,
he
he's
just
like
died.
HK. He doesn't have
Wait.
anything to live for.
Why am I 1 HP?
Because
He's exactly like HK, man.
Can I move to my home? I can.
Why are you going backwards?
Because I can?
Oh, okay.
you can't normal when you're going backwards.
Can I get up? Nope. I'm being I'm being kidnapped, and I'm being like, oh, never mind. He left.
Oh.
I thought it was being held hostage.
Oh boy.
my.
Eh.
We're not the Avengers. We're the Revengers.
Wow, I did it. Wow!
We are bootleg Avengers.
I'm healing. Max, I'm trying to get you. I'm on my way. I'm going backwards.
You know, I should actually make a story with just like all of us, but like we're just like different names and stuff,
Oh my
but it's
God,
our
the
personalities.
CPU fucking sucks. If the CPU dies, okay. What? How did they kill it? On successful evasion, deal 1 damage to opponent.
Sweet.
Guys, I think we should probably Norma.
We need
No. Really?
No, should we?
Nah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Murder!
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't murder.
Who the fuck watches Young Sheldon? Fuck the Big Theory. It still deserved to end. I'm glad it ended.
I never ended up watching it.
I hated that show. It was like no nerd acts that way. And I know nerds. I know you fucking Neon.
Sheldon's not a nerd. He's Sheldon. Sheldon's just like Sheldon. There's nothing like him.
Neon, I'm trying to revive you, but I'm kinda slow.
It's alright, take your time.
I'm
I get
trying to
lots of
Norma first.
I get lots of good sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah, Max, get on normal, please.
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna get a boneless.
Fuck. I'm dead.
No, you're not. Watch. You got this. See?
I cannot
You can,
evade.
you can evade it.
No, I have to evade. Boy, in hell.
Dude, you should probably go, like, revive Neon.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Try to...
I'm trying to revive them, but they're too retarded and far away. And I'm dead. Max, save us. Please.
I'll buy you some time!
No, I'm being taken hostage.
Oh, fuck. You guys gotta get up. The EMP won't do anything to me. Because I heal. But you guys gotta get the
Hey!
fuck up. Once he comes... Okay, finally. I was gonna say, once he gets over to me, I'm kinda fucked. What the fuck happened? Oh, evasion down.
That's great.
Dude, you should play Little War.
The thing is, that's a level 4 card, and we're level 3. Gonna need to either acquire 105 stars or murder 10 people.
I have 2 Revival of the Stars.
That's actually really good.
I don't like this. Can I have your backwards card?
I lost it since I
I
died.
don't want to go forward.
Fuck! I'm going home.
Don't go home.
I'm
Go
going
home. I'm
home.
probably gonna die. You should revive my body.
Country roads,
I'll
take
try.
me home
Oh my
to
God.
the place I belong.
Hell yeah! What?
Yeah, you
Hell
run the
yeah!
last bit. Evade. Evade. Or defend if you want to be safe.
I mean, I did quite a bit of damage to him.
That's a lot of damage.
Stop moving, so I'm dead.
Hey,
Oh. Please
Bro,
tell me he moves.
you should probably revive me.
I'll try.
Neon, stop going in a circle, okay?
Oh
I'm
my
trying my
fucking
best.
God, please help.
Well, you should probably revive me. Neon.
I'll use this for safety, I guess.
Okay. Why'd you use it?
For safety.
And then you died to the little fucking boy.
Watch, dude, I'm going to.
Oh, it's my turn.
Oh my fucking God. Please.
Hey, you can go home though, Newt. You can go home. It's okay. You can go home. Wait a minute. If I get up, does that mean I have to fight it again?
No, you don't have to.
Oh, thank God. Go home. Go home. Stay home.
Yeah, I need health.
We all need health. Except for the computer. Computer's doing fine.
Fucking goddamn it. Newt, help me. I'm trapped.
Oh.
What the
I'm a
fudge? What? Why? No! 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 That's bullshit! That is bullshit!
Fire in my laser. I'm a fire in my laser.
Okay. I just want to admire for a second. Okay, for one, my headphones unplugged. That sucks. But I want to admire for a second how I got a 6 and instantly recovered. As if my anger at being killed was just entirely... It just gave me an adrenaline rush.
You don't stop. I forgot that you don't stop. I keep forgetting.
But what kind of bullshit move was that? What the hell?
Now
Why?
you made it.
I live.
You live.
Wait, Fox gonna kill me. I'm dead.
Fuck.
No firing your lasers. That's not good. Don't do that.
I'm a fire in my laser.
Wait, why is Neon alive already?
Because I was so angry with the fact that I got killed that I just got unkilled.
Oh, nice.
The power of anger! I screamed loud.
Okay, you gotta revive me.
I'm dead though.
Shit. So he has to fight himself. Oh no.
No, he has to fight you.
Wow.
Should have gone for defend.
Maybe. But I mean, I have -1 defend.
Wait, Max, you could have.
Oh, which... I'm going here. I'm going here.
Oh well. Here we go. We're gonna lose. Game over, boys. Get up, Newt.
Nope. I'm tired, okay? Let me sleep. The CPU's retarded.
And me both got fucked up by that boss.
The CPU's actually retarded and suicidal.
Help.
Ow!
This is a very yikes moment.
Please let me live.
Please get me up.
I just wanna live.
Get up.
I live.
No, get me up.
We need more kills for the normal.
Get me up. My fucking god. I don't think I'm ever gonna get up. I think I'm fucked. The CPU's gonna die as well. Oh my. You know, if I was up, I could have got rid of most of these with the Rival of the Stars, but sadly that's not a thing that can. Oh.
Eh.
Oh, we did it. We did it.
I'm using this as safety.
Yeah, good
Okay.
plan, good plan.
So just survive for one more turn, please, in case I die, which I won't.
I mean, we're beating the shit out of it.
Well, yeah, but the CPU's probably dead.
Yep. Evade!
Somehow.
Wow!
And it does 1 damage! Hell yeah! Like,
Maybe that CPU isn't as dumb as we're giving him credit for.
Nah, CPU's retarded. Was just lucky.
I'm trying to get the fuck up, man.
By the way, my internet dies in like 15 minutes.
Now you're good.
Oh no.
Okay.
I was kind of trying to heal the CPU, but just wanted to die.
It had a death wish. Oh my god, it looked at you!
Oh, don't look at me funny, bitch. I'll kill your mom. She's
Wow,
ugly.
that's fucked up. Oh my
And
god,
I-
7 health left. We can do this.
No, he's a bitch. He's running away. I'll try and revive the CPU, I guess.
Should I use my revival of the stars?
Yes? Use it on me if I die. I die. Use it on me.
It's not a revival, it makes all the fucking panels like this. That didn't do a damn thing.
Wow.
Wait, what this?
Oh no. Please. Ah!
We just have to hold out a little bit.
God.
Ow! I'm trying not to die.
I don't like this. I get hurt one more time, I'm dead.
Wait, Revival of the Stars is shit. What the fuck? Why do we have it?
It's nice when you play regular, okay? Everybody heal up.
Oh god.
We're dead. It's over. I'm dead. Neon.
I'm not dead.
Wait, how did Nuke get up? When did Nuke get up?
I revived.
I didn't even notice. Guys, don't die.
I'll try and revive the
Oh,
bot.
thank God. Oh no.
Crap.
Please deal some damage.
Nope, it's over.
Defend.
Ah!
Oh my
Oh!
Nice, 1 damage.
It doesn't matter. He's still
Oh my
alive. at
fucking
least.
god, fuck mate.
Go home.
Yes, please heal me. Please heal me. Thank you.
I got you, dude. You won't die today.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow, but not today.
You know, once that laser happens, I think we're fucked.
Wait, it didn't even damage you, what the fuck?
As long as it only targets the CPU.
We need to focus the boss.
Yeah, this is kind of our opening. Go fight him.
Oh, wait! When does he attack first? I keep up to him! The fuck?
Maybe don't fight him. Heal yourself. Heal yourself.
I guess.
At least
I'll
get...
try to revive you.
The CPU's dead. Oh no. Oh, yep, CPU's dead.
I like how we only have 4 wins and we're kinda winning pretty hard. Like, we're only...
It's like I hear nothing but doubt, but I see nothing but positive.
I know, it's fucking weird.
Ah!
Oh!
Get out.
This is actually kind of good. Because now we can just kill him. Please? Oh no.
If he has the laser,
Yeah, I'm dead in that case.
we're fine. We're fine. I got up. We're fine.
Ow! My everything.
Oh no.
Teleport's behind you.
No. Hey, don't let him kill me though.
Hiya!
Asshole.
Gotcha. Whoa, what? Oh.
No! CPU's dead.
Well, better CPU than us. Oh, you are kidding me.
Oh no.
Ah! Why? On a perfectly reasonable attack!
The
Hit him,
fuck?
Oh,
Dude, he's
no.
gonna evade it again, or not.
Ah!
Oh no, it's the beam. It's the beam.
Fuck.
dead.
Oh, we're dead.
Shite!
I can't evade it.
Level 2.
This is...
Get up!
dead. We're dead.
I tried.
He has the laser, so you're just dead either way. Doesn't matter.
The fuck? We were so close, man!
We got really unlucky at the end, though.
That's kind of
3 HP! I'm not taking that line down. That's why I'm sitting and going to re-challenge this butthole. Whether you're joining me or not, I'm re-challenging him.
Big Nate's gotta go, dude.
Even if it means I have to do it with randos from the street.
I don't know if I feel like playing. I don't know.
Wait, why is it chicken saying cake?
Kick?
No, it said cat.
Boom!
So you leaving then? Or are you staying?
I'm leaving, dude. My internet's
I'll
dying
play
in
one.
10
I'll play
minutes.
one more.
Cool. Do we want to wait for people?
I don't know. It's up to you.
Because we can get 2 people in here, and sometimes those people are more experienced than we are.
I know what we could try to do.
What?
Is he online? He's on Do Not Disturb. Fuck. I think you understood what my plan was, but he's not online.
Hmm.
My plan was to get Meryl in here. And see if he would fucking help her. But Meryl isn't online, so
Well, Mero's online. Just on Do Not Disturb.
He's on Do Not Disturb.
That, if you direct message him, he still gets those messages.
Unless Vamp wants to join, but I think Vamp's busy as well.
If you want to join Vamp, I can join you.
I just think it's better to have like at least 3 fucking people playing.
Yeah.
That aren't CPU. I wish Newt's internet didn't die out.
Same.
Dude, you should go buy a VPN.
Still doesn't fix the problem with my internet going out, though.
Nah, dude. Your VPNs, you can just connect to that, and there you go, you got an internet. VPNs are your internet. There you go. You fixed it.
But don't I need internet
Boom!
to connect to VPN?
Boneless
No.
internet.
Boneless thing is.
All right, I'm gonna start inviting people from stinking. Hold on.
I'm going to bed. You guys have fun killing the
Boom!
whatever. You're boneless.
Sure.
Later, guys.
Bye.
I'm sad. I'm all alone. I'm all alone now. Sad. There's nobody left. Well, time to go.
Sad.
It's sad. Anybody else streaming this? Oh, we can go ask somebody else from a different stream. Just go up to somebody else's stream and like, yo, we need help. Help. Yeah, we see your we see your estimate.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we see that you asked that person for loot, dude. You shouldn't do that. Loot.
Oh, I know someone who can join.
TNT. Oh, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, you joined. Now what? Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain, Oklahoma River. Life is old here, older than the trees. Something taste of moonshine, something tears in your eyes.
Da da da, da da da, da da da. Da da da, da 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 da, da 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 da, da da da, da da da, da da da, da 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 da, da. Oh jeez.
We sounded like TNT at the end of that. I don't know, dude. It might be rep.
I continue try.
Yeah, but I don't want to play if nobody else want to play. I would like to have at least 3 people. We would get fucked if it's just me and you. I'm just saying.
According to my bottom right, it seems somebody's gonna join in here. Because somebody I invited just said they're getting into orange juice. So,
What? Somebody join?
yeah. It's one of my friends.
Who the hell is Musu?
A friend of mine.
They have 474 wins. Christ, man, it's a lot of wins. Is that all? Is this all that they play?
I don't know.
I don't understand how some people can get like that many wins. I'm like, there's no way in hell I can do that many wins. I don't have enough time for that. Yeah, I don't have the option to play as Revenger, so I don't know.
Really? It's the fireball.
Yeah, I don't have the Fireball.
Weird.
So, what are you playing as?
I'll just pick whatever's open.
Play a support. Try support. Well, I need support cards. Like Lost Child. Give me these Revive, Give me Cloud of Seagulls. That's good. That's good support. Give me the Saki Cookie. Give me some Dangerous Pudding. Give me Saki Cookie. Give me some Dangerous Pudding and give me a Saki Cookie. Meow.
Oh wait, somebody else changed to that too. I guess I should... I wasn't talking to you, Alexa.
Alexa, tell me about the robot takeover.
Alexa, when's the robot takeover?
I don't know that one.
Ah, jeez. You never work for me, do ya?
I thought you programmed it.
I did. I don't understand what happened.
Time to leave the lobby. Dude, I gotta pee. Be right back. Turn?
Yeah.
Gee. Oh. Well, I just got here. It gave me the option, but then, like, I wasn't given an option. If I die, I swear to God.
Your turn.
Aha, I did it. I win.
Yee.
You don't win. We did. Goodbye.
Not yet.
Hmm.
I may be generic QP for some unknown reason, but I will...
But I will fight again. But I gotta get the fucking Team Sonic Racing game.
I heard it's good.
You should get it. Oh wait, your computer.
My computer could probably handle it if I close everything else.
A cell hyper? I've never seen that before. Huh. Deja vu. I've never been to this place before.
Oh, Jesus.
Dude, it's malfunctioning.
Quick repair. Wow.
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 Whoa! Whoa!
Whoa! Oh, if I wasn't so tired, I would freaking... Whew. I'd have more enthusiasm. Well, 1 star away from getting normal.
Fuck, I didn't have enough stars, or I would've.
Hmm?
I would've fucking revived him. I tried to, but I didn't have any stars.
Hmm.
You need 30 in order to do it. I like how we each have one of each of the classes.
We did try to plan it up like that.
Yeah, and remember, if you fucking use the shield, you're using up your own health.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody.
I know. So I'll only do that if I
Oh.
think somebody... Oh. Well.
That's pretty dumb. The healer's dead. Help the healer.
Yeah. It's like when I was fighting Jevil. Or else I would always die.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Did you just hurt yourself? Did you just hurt yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Dude, I didn't even click my button. Why did it take my turn for me?
Hi.
Max, stop stealing memes.
I can't help it.
He's a meme stealer. That's what he does.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was ringing you earlier, but then you didn't come, so...
And then somebody else came.
I was eating supper.
What were you eating?
Pizza.
Type of pizza.
Little Caesars.
Nice.
That shit sucks.
You said.
I don't like Little Caesars. Always tasted like ass. Tasted like I was eating ass. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's not a good thing. I like how I've not done 1 damage to this thing at all. I'm just here for the ride, dude. They're carrying me. Well, I didn't even press anything. I'm confused. Neon, don't shield anybody. You have no health to do it.
I know.
Shield everybody.
Oh, that happened. What was that?
It's me.
Oh. Did you gum or something?
Huh?
Sounded like gum.
It's because it is.
I leave.
Okay.
I'm not fully chatting it, but I leave the game.
Okay.
Oh.
In Minecraft, or should I play Fallout? Minecraft, Fallout.
After the
Well,
stream, I do
Fortnite.
have to.
Fortnite.
No,
Well, not Fortnite.
because Fortnite is not the best game.
Are you asking him to play Fortnite or asking him to commit die? Because it's die of the self-esteem.
Don't worry, I did something. I finally killed an enemy.
In Minecraft. Who like Minecraft?
You're playing the Minecraft demo like that vamp kid. All he would do is play the demo. He would play boneless.
Boneless Minecraft?
Yeah. Boneless Minecraft demo.
Boneless craft.
Bonecraft.
I feel like that's just peaceful mode. You can't get any bones. Peaceful mode.
I mean, that's all I played on is peaceful.
You disgust me.
Why? Why would I want to deal with enemies?
It's like half the game.
No. But yay! Kill it! Oh well, fuck.
Yeah.
Green firework. Green firework. Red firework. Blue firework. Yellow firework.
Firework.
Fire the walk. Fuck it, I'll fight him. I don't care. Fuck! I probably shouldn't have fought.
Nice.
This isn't an immense amount of lag.
I gave you love.
I
Love
tried.
hurts, but I gave you love.
I tried. I tried. Well, you tried.
Excuse me.
God, that's rude.
I said excuse me.
Ew. That's rude.
I see. I am not excused because I did it on purpose.
Wow, what an asshole. You evade that. Got it. You might want to heal the healer.
That man had such tunnel vision of fighting.
I'm the fucking worst healer, man.
You are indeed the worst.
I'm fighting instead of healing.
But you said you didn't do any damage to the boss.
I didn't. I died. Oh my god, I'm dead. Why do you have a ring cloud?
Huh?
Or I also have a ring cloud. Can you have a rain cloud and balloons?
I have a streak of
Maybe.
5.
Let me see what happens. I can't see what happens.
Yeah!
I can't even see what's going on because God, yep, he did. Oh, the balloons get rid of your rain cloud.
They shouldn't. I had both of them at the same time.
I didn't.
What a predicament.
Dude, if I was a good healer, I would be able to go over there and heal. Please? Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, I'm up. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna get killed by the... Well, this is a fucking... This is the unfortunate circumstances.
Yep.
Oh boy. Oh, thank God it's an immovable object. Thank God I don't like... Oof.
Oh, see.
I don't know why I'm doing this. No. Want me to heal you? Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Fuck. Thank God. There, you're gonna be healed. I think that was a pretty good turn that time. Did the smart thing that time.
Well, I could actually... Yeah, okay. Yeah! Aww.
Oh my God. It's fucking 6 o'clock already? Jesus.
Oh my god. Wow.
I should probably go eat after this.
Yeah. I think I'll end the stream after this, too.
Play Minecraft with me. Who like Minecraft?
I don't own it, sorry.
You disgust me.
Don't own what?
I don't own Minecraft, man.
I thought everyone owned it, even if they hated it.
What's Minecraft? Never heard of it. Knock it up.
Ah.
God, I hate that fucking defense.
Look, it's that dude that killed me last
Should I?
Why not? You have full health.
Fine. You see, that's why I don't want to do it. Damn it, that's your fault, Neon. You told me to do it. Peer pressure.
Oh.
The hell's an aerobic hydrosity test, though?
It's just the name he picked.
What is it like? What is it?
Okay. That's fine.
Am I dead? Nope. Cool.
Very dead. I don't know why I keep playing this Hypixel game. Like every other person is freaking using some kind of cheats.
I don't know. Why are you playing Minecraft?
Because it's Minecraft.
Get me up! God damn it. Help! Help! I fell in and I can't get up.
You can get up. You're just not trying hard enough.
Wow. How rude. Boss took 1 damage from a fucking trap. Oh. No. You have -2 attacks. What do you think would have happened? I don't like that everybody's dying.
People dying is not fun.
Nor is your face. Your face is not fun.
I fought him anyway!
Defend.
Ugh.
You live. You died.
Yeah!
Oh, you got your hyper.
Yeah!
You won't survive.
Oh no. I don't like this. At least one of us got away. Oh my god. You my guy here, dude.
I don't want to waste it on this. I can do it. Crap!
Damn. If she or he, whatever that is, dies, we're kind of fucked. It's over.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
It's over.
Oh, hey, Panda Family, good to see ya. After this round, we're gonna call it quits on the stream, but, yeah. Good to see you came back just in time to see it.
Get some more stars. Fuck. Can't. Might as well go heal. Somebody pick up stars so I can go home. Get us leveled up again. Yikes. Oh, thank God. Somebody leveled up at least. I'm sitting at home. I'm not dealing with it. At least he isn't firing his laser yet.
Oh, don't say that. He's gonna start firing his laser if he does.
I'm a firing my laser. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but don't worry. I'll probably stream this again sometime. Because I feel like this will be interesting to say the least.
I can evade! Yes! Haha! Wreck bitch! Jesus, I fucked that thing up. What? What is this card? Passionate resource? Research?
I love being triple teamed. It's not supposed to be teaming in this game. It's a free for all.
Neon, it's your turn.
I know. I asked a question. I'm waiting for them to answer.
I don't play this shit that often. Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm. And I got the heals. Yeah. The battle of two auras.
Thank God for fucking Neon giving me that.
You are welcome.
He dead.
Aw.
He 100% fucking dead, man. He ain't coming back.
100% dead juice. Otherwise known as blood spilled all over the floor. Wow.
Fuck. Get the fuck out of there and I got stars!
What?
We can do this!
Okay. 11 HP. I feel like we're sitting more comfortably this time. Then again, we have two people who are used to this. So. I mean, the one person is attacker 25, so.
I got it. I got it. I got it! I don't got it.
Aw.
Oh, I shouldn't have tried it. I don't know if they're saying to me fucking dying or not. Oh. Blue lives in a pineapple undersea. Oh my
Max.
Jesus! That fucking card is. Oh, he's dead though.
Hmm.
That's fucking. That was fucking great, man. Oh, 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 oh! I don't like this. We might die. This might be our last round.
Hold on. The enemy is that giant robo-ball there.
Unless they can survive. Use your card, I would. We did it!
Yeah!
Good job.
I knew TNC and fucking Newt were our problem.
that was a lot more, you know, sitting comfortably and all that crud.
Dude, I went to level 2. Dude, you level up quick with that.
Wow, they just immediately left. Okay. Yeah, we killed the chicken.
They were like, nerds.
Yeah, we murdered the heck out of that chicken. We made some fried ass chicken.
We need some dank ass chicken, my boy.
Good for you.
Alright, let's see what I get from this thing. More balloons, cool. That. Uh-huh.
I got a thing for tequila.
Nice. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's a song named Tequila.
Did he just hit his head on a table or something? What the fuck was
I
that?
do that a lot, but that's not what I did this time.
What the fuck was that, TNC? What did you just do?
This.
Stop. Get some help.
Stop it. Get some help.
Get some help. I defeated M10 robot. Wait, that's a robot? I thought that was a rock.
Oh my goodness, those are the... Oh... I want that outfit next time I play.
Dude, I hosted you just in time for you to end.
Thanks. I need to start working out like if somebody hosts me in CRUD. Like I need to figure out how I'm going to do that. You know what? It's been a while since I bought cards.
No, we all did good. We all did good today, except for...
Shut up, Max.
Okay, well, that's why we don't do that. Okay. You know what? Let's just buy a bunch of these.
Don't worry, TNC. You'll get them next time. You got them next time.
Oh, cool.
Well, I'm gonna add TNT to the call. Hold on.
No, you didn't spell that right, but that's fine. I know what you're talking about.
Whatever happened to Vamp? He just like disappeared.
He's gone forever.
He was lost to space and time.
Why does your fucking orange juice look different than mine?
Because I have that language mod on.
No, I mean like the shop looks different.
Well, that's because I have this button enabled. This is what it looks like normally. And then I have this.
Jesus, how many did you get?
Not a lot. Oh, that was... Oh, if I would have known, I would have bought that.
What?
This. That would have been great with the outfit I just got.
For who?
QP.
Oh.
Whoa! My game lagged and he teleported to me and then I died.
Oh.
Ah, yes, he's hacking. I see. We just watched him like auto build all the way over to another island and then go flying towards it.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's. I'm just watching this man fly everywhere and destroy everybody's entire game. You think Hypixel would have better fucking hack protection than this? He's just flying everywhere. He's not even hiding it. He's just going everywhere. He's just flying everywhere and then instantly killing him.
Who the fuck that? Oh. You missed orange juice, Merle.
Well, not my problem. I could have been invited in the first place, but nope, I got skipped over.
How do you even know? Like, I can't invite you unless I don't know.
What do you mean?
I don't remember you saying anything, so... I'm about to end the stream off right now.
Chat like a few days ago for one.
A few
Two,
days
I
ago.
wasn't in the first place, you really could have just sent an invite, and if
I thought you and Kirby were doing a thing. Alright, so, if you guys enjoyed the stream, you hit like buttons on streams. Let's go with that. Hit the like button on the stream. I hope you all enjoyed, streaming everything. And I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye. And I promise, video Wednesday, okay? I promise. I've just been really busy. Okay, goodbye.